Okay, we've just come from the backside of Clover Hill and driven up the Angel Lake Highway to Angel Lake, which I think is one of the most remarkable yet enigmatic, mysterious places geologically that I know of in the entire western U.S. Cordillera. What's happened here is that a much younger normal fault has intervened between Clover Hill and the East Humboldt Range and sliced down and dropped the Clover Hill block down and brought up these spectacular exposures that we see behind us. And in doing that, it uplifted the Ruby Mountains East Humboldt Detachment Fault up above the top of Gray's Peak behind me now. And that puts it up then. Imagine it soaring up into the air above our heads and down, sloping down toward Elko to the west. And that gives us the splendid slice through geologic time down into the rocks that underlie the detachment fault, that underlie even the mylonitic zone. And so the upper half of the cirque here consists of similar mylonites to those that we saw on the backside of Clover Hill. But these deeper rocks give us a chance to look at what the deep part of the crust of the earth might look like. And what we find is a number of really puzzling mysteries, riddles. The lower part of the cirque here, between me and the waterfall behind us, the white rocks, expresses is a sequence of rocks that we can also see in the Pequot Mountains, just 2 ranges to the east. But there, the same rocks are sedimentary. And here and there, they are over 10 kilometers, that's over 6 miles thick. Here, it's less than 100 meters thick, that entire sequence. And so it's been stretched like taffy in the deeper crust. And you might ask, how can we know that that they're even the same rocks when they've been stretched to that phenomenal extent? And one of the things we can look at, again, is to turn to radiometric age dating. And some of the rocks have crystals in them that we can age date, particularly the mineral zircon. And we've been able to date some of those rocks with a very distinctive formation to be as young as Ordovician, lower Ordovician in age. And so we know that these rocks, even though they look so fantastically different, are the very same rocks that we see as sedimentary rocks just a few miles to the east. And that's the process of metamorphism. That's the process, what we mean by transformation or change in rocks. And so what levels in the earth might we be looking at? Well, myself and another scientist at RPI University have looked at these rocks, and our best estimates based on the chemical compositions of minerals that grew in the metamorphism during the metamorphic event is that they achieved depths, were buried to depths as great as 10 kilobars pressure. Well, what does that mean? That, if you take typical densities of rocks, that would bury them at least 35 kilometers down. And so we're seeing deep, deep, deep into the earth, deeper than we see anywhere else in Nevada. Now the mysteries get even deeper as we proceed up, or more profound, greater as we proceed up the cirque wall. Because as you go, so we're going from the oldest rocks at the bottom up to younger rocks above, and that makes sense, right? But then suddenly, in the middle of the cirque, we get to rocks that have yielded much, much older age dates that extend back all the way to the early parts of geologic time to an age we call the Archean. And those rocks occupy the center of the cirque. And then at the very top, once again, we see the same rocks that we see at the bottom, but they're turned upside down. So there was this big turning or folding event that captured these oldest rocks in the entire state of Nevada, in the core of them, and folded them over with younger rocks around them like that. And there has to have been some great fault between them before that folding. And so my inference is that the formation of that fold, and probably the fault that originally put the Archean rocks over the Paleozoic rocks, over the much younger rocks, was what was responsible for burying them to such incredible depths. And then we have, so the big mysteries we're trying to solve about the Ruby Mountains and East Humboldt Range is, how did the rocks get so deep? And then how did they get back up to the surface? And what does that tell us about the history of the not just the Ruby Mountains and East Humboldt Range, but the western U.S. Cordillera? And this is a real Rosetta Stone, or a keystone locality for understanding that history. And so as you walk from Angel Lake up to the crest of Gray's Peak, you're walking through 2.5 billion years of Earth history. So take that, Grand Canyon.